listeners, welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everyone. Nice to have you all back.
We are broadcasting from CIVL on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation.
And that it is.
We're also live streaming on the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group. And we are live streaming on my YouTube channel.
And that we are.
We certainly are. If you are just tuning in for the first time, I'll explain a little bit about Unlocking Your Truth. It's a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. We've been doing the show for 4.5 years, and we have a lot of podcast episodes available on
5 years, 5.5 years.
Yeah, on drlesliephillips.com, you can get all the back podcasts. And we strive to be educational on this show under that umbrella of metaphysics and spirituality. We want to inspire you. We want to bring you information. And this year, we're really focusing on intuition and all of the different aspects of intuition. In part, it's a celebration of my new book, which is called Intuition and Chakras. And for the rest of the year, what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be dedicating each show we do to a different aspect of intuition and its relationship with one of the 7 main chakras. So we're on to about the 4th episode of our Intuition and Chakra series. So if you have missed the first 3 episodes, you can check them out on the podcast feed. So we're up to learning about the 3rd chakra. The 3rd chakra, which is chapter 12 in my book. And last week we sort of introduced the 3rd chakra and what it's all about. And we talked about one of the aspects, which was energy distribution. This week, we are going to talk about out-of-body experience, which is another aspect of the 3rd chakra. So the 3rd
which is the same as astral travel, correct?
Which includes astral travel.
Okay.
So there are different forms of out-of-body experience. And in actual fact, when you're astral traveling, you are in a body. It's just not your physical body because you are in what's called your astral body. You also have a light body, and you also can experience yourself as pure spirit outside of the body, not in any body at all. So there's different ways of experiencing that out-of-body state. In the book, I focus predominantly on astral travel because I think that that's perhaps the one that's most approachable for people. Everybody dreams, and often when you're dreaming, what you're actually doing is astral traveling. So I think that this is one of the forms of intuition or intuitive experience that most people can identify with. I read somewhere that about 98% of people have at one time or other had a premonition in their dreams. And 20% of people have lucid dreams on a relatively regular basis. So I think that this is something that all the listeners and most people can really identify with. So tonight's show, the topic is, as I mentioned, the 3rd chakra and out-of-body experience. So let's talk about...
I love this topic.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool topic. And I'm going to give a little bit of preamble and talk about, why it's relating to the 3rd chakra as well. So you experience yourself as this body personality self. I experience myself as Leslie in this body. You experience yourself as Corey in that body, and everybody listening experiences themselves as, that body personality level. They've got the physical body, the name that's associated with it. But in actual fact, we're so much more than our body. We exist on multiple planes of reality. We are eternal, multidimensional creator beings. And so, like I was just explaining at the beginning of the show, we have a physical body which helps us to get around in physical reality. We have an astral body that helps us get around in the astral plane reality. And what is the astral plane? It is a plane of experience that is closely associated with the earth plane. So you can almost think of it of layers of reality. We've got the physical planet, and we're all wandering around in our physical bodies on the surface of the physical planet. And then we've got this other plane of experience beyond the physical level on earth, which is the astral plane. And it is a place, it's closely associated with our earth plane reality. And in a way, it's a place that we go to have a more expanded experience, or even work things out that we're wanting to work out from our physical level. And I can see that Corey wants to ask a question, but I'm just going to finish my thought, which is that there are differences between the physical plane and the astral plane. Physical reality has time and space. The astral plane does not have time and space. Physical reality, you experience solid matter that, and the laws of physics like gravity and so on. They don't exist in astral plane reality. In astral plane reality, you can fly, you can float on water, you can walk through a wall, and so on. Corey, yes? You're on mute.
Letitia wants to know what characterizes a lucid dream.
Thank you, Letitia. I would say what characterizes a lucid dream is that you're in full conscious awareness that you're in the dream, and you are experiencing the dreamscape or the dream reality just as you experience your physical reality. Because so often dreams are, we're not experiencing ourselves in that very lucid state. So this is something where it kind of like you wake up within the dream, and you can direct your consciousness within the dream, rather than, the dream is happening and it's unfolding and it's following some kind of story and it's following some kind of timeline, but it's almost like you're observing yourself as a character in the dream, or you're observing the characters in the dream. A lucid dream is you are one of the characters in the dream, and you're fully conscious and aware of what you're doing, and why you're doing it. You're making conscious choices. So I hope that explains the what the difference is. Okay, listeners, well, you're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, and tonight's episode of Unlocking Your Truth is about the third chakra and out-of-body experience. And we were just talking about the astral body and the astral plane. The astral body being the body, the vehicle that you inhabit to experience the astral plane. And most people would think of that experience as their dreams. But what's actually happening much of the time when you are dreaming is you are in your astral body experiencing the astral plane. Looks like there's another question.
Yep. And it's why sometimes we can remember our dreams and sometimes not. And that's from Andarini.
Hi, Andarini. That's a good question. And I was
All
actually,
good questions.
yeah, I'm going to talk about that perhaps in a bit more detail next week, but to answer it here, remember I said that, well, there's a few different explanations. So one of them, which is a bit more scientific, is that there are chemical changes that occur in the brain when you wake up that cause you to instantly, forget your dream unless you really focus on hanging on to it. But the other explanation, which is a more spiritual explanation, is, remember I was explaining how in physical reality there is time and space. There's 4 dimensions of experience. There's linear time and the 3D world. And so the content of our physical lives seems to happen in a linear fashion. And we've got this very focused experience going on. This moment followed by this moment, followed by the next moment. On the astral plane, you have a much broader scope of experience, which is more multidimensional. There's no time, there's no space. And so what that gives you is a much broader arena of experience. Now, given that your physical body experience is a finite experience, and given that your astral experience is more like an infinite experience, you can't fit all of the astral plane experience into this body personality self. It would be too much information, too much energy, total overload. So we don't remember it all because we can't remember it all. And it isn't appropriate for us to remember it all because some of it doesn't even relate to physical reality. So, and I'm sure you've all had these dreams where while you're dreaming them, they make absolute sense. And then you wake up and you struggle to kind of even make sense of it. And it's because it doesn't translate very easily into physical reality understanding. So we don't remember our dreams always because they're not always relevant, because they don't fit into the 4D reality that we're in. But anything that you need to bring in, you bring in, and you might even not remember that, but somehow or other it's integrating into your physical system. Like, I'm going to make up an example here. So let's say you have some kind of choice to make in your life. Let's make up a funny one, like there's 3 boyfriends you're trying to choose between. And you might, in your astral plane experience, enter into a relationship with all 3 of them to see how does it go. And then based on that, say, well, this is the one I want to manifest in physical reality then, right? And you might not remember all of that, but you download the one that you're wanting to play out in the physical realm. Looks like there's another question.
Oh yeah, there is another question, and I just want to remind you, Dr. Leslie, this is a G-rated program, right? Yeah, there's another question from Helen, and Helen says, why do we get lucid dreams in picture form? Is it a higher level of subconscious?
That's a good question. Why do we get
They're all good questions.
Yeah, in picture form. I've never been asked that before, but so let's see.
By the way, if you hear anything, I've got the window open and I hear an owl outside.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So give me a moment to answer that question. So we have senses that we experience the physical world through, right? We have a visual sense, we have an auditory sense, we have other senses, and they're geared to the specific, wavelengths of sounds and sights that exist on Earth. When you're not in your physical body and you're in the outer body state, you still have senses, and you also have how you communicate. So what we might think of as our intuition when we're in the physical body is actually our natural form of interacting with reality when we're outside of the body. And so outside of the body, there is the language we use is more multidimensional, and it's based on light, basically light and sound. And so you experience it through those, I mean, we might call the visual sense your clairvoyance, and the auditory sense your clairaudience, for example. But it literally is how you interact with reality, and how you communicate in that out of body state. I hope that answers the question for you. Looks like there's another one. This is a cool show. Everybody likes it.
Oh yeah, there's lots of dreams. I guess people. This is one from Curious Soul. There are people who take DMT or mushrooms. They claim that when they travel, they get so much info, but when they wake up, they realize there's no memory room to get all of that info on this plane.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because those hallucinogens or those chemicals are allowing them to have access to that expanded state of consciousness. And just like I mentioned, then when they come back into the physical reality state, they have you know, a much broader package of information than can fit into this storage device, I guess you might call it. So yeah, thanks for that comment, George. It's kind of another validation of what I'm saying.
And now, guess what time it is?
We're going to go for a break, folks. And
That was the fastest. That was the fastest the breaks ever come up. We're going to go for a break, folks, and it's going to be a short break, so stay tuned. Don't go away. Be right back.
Hello, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. Tonight's episode of Unlocking Your Truth is about the third chakra and out-of-body experience.
And it's a very interesting one.
Yeah, it's another episode that's dedicated to my new book, Intuition and Chakras. We're basically going through 22 different episodes, each one dedicated to a different form of intuition and the chakra that it is associated with. So, to continue talking about out-of-body experience. So we were talking about how people are very familiar with their dreams, and that most dreams you are actually having an out-of-body experience. You are actually astral traveling. There are some dreams which are not. So the body does have its own way of dealing with and processing the experiences that you've been having throughout the day. And the way to tell the difference is if it's all jumbled up thoughts and playback of the day's activities, that might not be an out-of-body experience. It might just be the body processing what you've been through during the day. But dreams have a timeline, a storyline. Time is not necessarily linear. Time is more fluid because it actually doesn't really exist, although through creating a storyline, it can feel like it does. But you can, in a way, you can be experiencing different segments of the dreamscape. It's almost like you could be experiencing the middle of the dream and the beginning of the dream simultaneously, or out of order, for example, but it's still got a storyline. And But you can also, you can visit the past and you can visit the future in your dreams. You can instantly be in one place and then another place. So in physical reality, if I wanted to go to Hawaii, I would have to buy a plane ticket. I would have to go to the airport, get on the plane, sit on the plane, get off in Hawaii. In your dream state, when you're astral traveling, as soon as you get the thought, oh, I'd like to go to Hawaii, boom, you're right there, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's no time and space. There's just your thoughts and intentions and an instantaneous reaction to your thoughts and intentions. Physical reality is different. We've got time and space before what we're creating is reflected back at us. On the astral plane, it's instantly reflected back at us. Okay, so what else can we tell you about? Well, let's talk a little bit about the astral body itself. First, oh, look, I see that there's a question.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
This is from Becca. Becca says, how do we go about having an out-of-body experience?
Again, a really great question. And I think that there are many different techniques that can give you that experience. So let's see if I can list a few of them. So there are lots of lucid dreaming techniques that give you a kind of process to go through when you are going to sleep at night. And there's so many different techniques. You know, I'll try and list a few of them. For example, you visualize, one might be you visualize yourself climbing a staircase with a door at the top of the staircase as you're going to sleep, you know, and then you train yourself that when you go through the door that you're stepping into a lucid dream. That's one type of one where there's sort of like a visualization scenario that you're using. There are other techniques where, let's see, while you're going to sleep, you imagine that, let's say you're lying in bed, but you imagine that your feet touch the wall at the opposite end of the room and your head touches the wall at the other opposite end of the room. And so it like you're stretching your body out. Or you imagine you're on a swing and you're swinging backwards and forwards. So there's all these different techniques for helping you to sort of move into your astral body, which is more pliable than your physical body. You can, so that's one way. And another way is to train yourself to wake up in the middle of your dream. So there might be cues that you say to yourself mentally that, you know, well, here are some clues. For example, one common experience in a dream is that numbers never stay the same. So let's say you're in a dream and you look at the time and it's 5 o'clock. If you glance away and you look back at the time, it's not 5 o'clock anymore, it's some other number. And so, you know, learning cues like that and then being able to say, wow, I'm in a dream, you know, and wake yourself up inside the dream. That's another technique. There's another one, and it's funny because I was reading my book over this chapter in my book before we came on air, and there's I wrote about one of my personal experiences, and what's in there is not exactly right. And I'm like, I don't think I changed that. So I'll share the technique that I actually used, because it says something different in the book. So I don't know whether it got edited into something else, which is kind of interesting. But there's a famous set of books by an author called Jane Roberts, who channeled an entity called Seth. And Seth was very into projections of consciousness. And he had a technique to become lucid in your outer body experience. And it was that, you know, if you become aware that you're in a dream, that you basically say, illusions be gone. And what happens when you say illusions be gone is that the dreamscape disappears and you find yourself floating in your astral body right there, in the, you know, in the room that you're in. What the book says is wake up now, which would wake you up now. So that's kind of not what I meant to say. Looks like there's another question. Oh, you're muted.
Keep going. I've just got my hand up. When you're ready to come to me, just come to me.
That's okay. You can ask the question.
Okay, so we got another question from Helen. Helen says, my understanding is we all have learned behavior combined with past lives stored in cells and DNA. So I believe our lucid dreams is built up of that.
Can you read that again?
My understanding is we all have learned behavior combined with past lives stored in cells and DNA. So I believe our lucid dreams is built up from that, of that. By the way, there's lots of questions here. So
It's not really a question, it's a statement, isn't it?
What she wants to know is that true? Is it built? I believe our lucid dreams is built up of that. Is that a belief that you have?
So, okay, so we can be having, so we use our dreams often to work through stuff. So let's say you have a learned behavior or a belief that is somehow not supporting you. You might go through scenarios in your dream experience to work through that learned behavior and change it. The DNA is quantum and contains so much information about you, including your past lives and everything. And so, and yes, you're more in that quantum state when you're in your outer body experience or your astral body. And so, yes, you are exploring those inner psychological dimensions or that inner landscape or tapestry of the larger being that you are. So one might say, well, the DNA contains information about that larger being that you are, and in your dreams you're exploring that inner dimension of yourself. And then the thing about the cells, so I mean, I think that you can be also working with healing the health of your body, or, you know, clearing energies or experiencing energies that you've stored at the cellular level. So I think all of those things that you mentioned are true, and more, really. What else would they like to know about, Corey?
Inquiring minds want to know. So I'm going to give you two here that sound a little similar. I'm not sure if they are, though. And one's from Benjamin. How do we download this information you talk about without mushrooms and other drugs? And Patrice wants to know, how do we astral travel? Is this the same as out-of-body experience? Well, maybe they're two different questions.
Okay, how do we download this information? So remember, we're saying that the outer body experience is the chakra or energy center that relates to outer body experience is the third chakra. So one way that we can use for dream recall or for accessing information, and I guess downloading it, is through the third chakra. So for example, you may wake up and have forgotten your dream, but if you know how, you can use your clairvoyance to look at what's stored in your third chakra, and you can actually look at the imagery from your dream experience. So you may have brought in aspects of your dream experience through your outer body memory, which is also in your third chakra. Using your clairvoyance, you can access that and look at the dream experiences. So that involves you to do, you know, knowing about how to use your clairvoyance and developing your clairvoyance. But that is one technique. Something maybe a bit simpler is just to set the intention that I will download or upload everything that benefits me that's happened as an experience when I've been outside of the body. It's going to automatically happen, and you just set that intention without even necessarily consciously directing it. So those would be the two things that I might say to that. And then the question, is astral travel and out-of-body experience the same or different? Astral travel is a form of out-of-body experience, and we use the astral body to experience the astral plane, which I was saying earlier in the show is closely associated with the earth plane. You also have a light body, which is also referred to as the Merkaba, which is another vehicle for exploring reality beyond the physical and astral plane reality. So that is a higher dimensional vehicle that allows you to have higher dimensional experiences and travel beyond the earth plane. You can also have out-of-body experiences where you are not in any particular body at all. And so, in fact, in my Unlock Your Intuition course, which is like the first course I recommend anybody takes, we do some exercises, because what we're trying to demonstrate is you are spirit, you're not your physical body. So we do some exercises where we move our consciousness outside of the physical body, so that we can have that realization, well, actually, I'm not my body, because if I was my body, I wouldn't be able to get out of it. But here I am, no longer in my body. So, so astral travel is a form of out-of-body experience, but not the only one. All right.
Okay, so we have a question from Ashley. And Ashley says, so I used to get close to or have out-of-body experiences all the time. At one point, it was every other day, and I would get into them through sleep paralysis. All of a sudden, one day, they stopped. Do you know why they would stop so randomly?
It's a good question, and I'll take a look at that for you, but I'll just make a note, a mention about sleep paralysis. So sleep paralysis is that experience where you're waking up and you can't move your body. And usually from a spiritual perspective, I'm sure there's the different medical explanation, but from a spiritual perspective, you're basically still in your astral body and trying to slot back into your physical body, and it's just not connecting up yet. So why might that have stopped? Well, I'd be interested, Ashley, in how your life changed at the point that it stopped. So it may be that you just switched your focus of your energy onto something else, and your capacity is taken up in some other focus. I'll make something up. Let's say that you were really enjoying all those out-of-body experiences, and then you decided that you wanted to pursue your psychic abilities and your intuition in your, through your waking self, and you started taking courses on how to do that. Maybe then your energy is taken up with something else instead of the out-of-body experience. I'm going to take a look at that. And if any of that resonates with you, you can type it in. So what did change for you around the time that this stopped? So that might give you some clue as to that. Like, where was your energy going before, while you were doing it, versus after? And I wonder how long ago this was as well. So let's just take a quick look for Ashley. So you were having out-of-body experiences every other day, and then it just stopped. Well, what I see, it's almost like you came into a stronger point of focus on the physical. So it's kind of like what I was saying, that somehow you became more grounded and more focused on the physical reality level. And also, another explanation is to say that you were preparing yourself for the next step on your physical earthbound journey. And so once all of that had happened, you didn't need it in quite the same way that you were having it before. All right. Hopefully that gives you an answer.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful, Dr. Leslie. The questions are amazing. I got a couple of really good ones for you for after the break.
Okay.
But I think right now we're pretty well close to break, and we should come back in a few seconds.
We'll be back shortly.
Okay, Dr. Leslie.
Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Corey and Dr. Leslie. Tonight's episode is all about out-of-body experience and the third chakra, which is in my new book, Intuition and Chakras. And we're having this discussion as part of a series we're doing this year. Each episode is about a different psychic ability and its relationship with the chakra system.
So just a couple of comments to what you were saying about Ashley. It says it's been about 2 years, and what changed was I started being more social in my physical life and got out of a relationship. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we have George is back on, and George says some research was done about astral travel, near-death experiences, and the religious belief of the subject. They noticed that during NDEs, some people meet Jesus while others meet other beings.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because, and maybe I should have also, an NDE is another form of out-of-body experience and near-death experience. So what happens? So this is a whole other show. But what happens when you die? The answer is what you believe will happen when you die is what happens when you die. So you create your own reality through your energy and through your beliefs. And so if you belong to a particular religion that has programmed you with a particular belief set, then you will enter into that experience at the point of death. That experience that you're having is a projection of your consciousness based on what you believe is going to happen. And so actually, I think I did a workshop on this that's available on my website. I've got these Akashic Adventure workshops. They're 2-hour workshops. And one of them was a workshop on the in-between life state. And I think there's an exercise in there called 7 Heavens, where basically what we do is we visit the 7 last heavens you created for yourself when you passed over the last 7 lifetimes. And so it's really fascinating because George is right. This is what happens. We will create an experience that validates the belief that we have. Now, eventually what happens is that your guides will take you out of that projected experience, and work with you on a higher level. But that's correct. That is what happens. So it's interesting that that's a scientific study. So thanks for that comment, George. Corey, you're on mute.
I have to go on mute because I type and typing makes noises. Letitia says, are out-of-body experiences, OOBEs, scary?
Again, that depends on you and because these are your projections of consciousness. You are creating the dreamscape and the dream experience around yourself. And so they can be scary or not. And so if you believe that they'll be scary, if you believe that, you're going to meet demons and so on, maybe you will. If you believe that you're going to go to the higher realms of consciousness and it's going to be and meet a spiritual master, then maybe you'll do that instead. I mean, there are, in a way, you can think of the astral plane as being, having different levels of experience as well. And so there's layers relating to the mass human consciousness that you can get lost in. So a lower level astral plane experience would include things like that. But it's all coming from the mass human consciousness that believes in those kinds of scary things and then goes out of body and creates them. But, you know, you can rise above that level to a higher plane of astral experience, where that's not the projection of consciousness that you are embedding yourself in. So it's a personal choice, and it depends on you and your stage of development. If you've got fears going on in your life, then you might create that. I remember, like, years and years ago, I used to be afraid of needles. And I used to sometimes get astral experiences where I was being chased by people with needles. And it was because I was afraid of needles.
That brings back memories. No, I'm sorry. It just brought back. When I was in college, many years ago, I was dating a nurse in college, and one of the things they were learning how to do was give injections. And so they practiced on oranges, but one day she chased me around the room with her syringe, wanting to practice on me. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
People are insane.
Do you have any other questions?
Yes, there are, and this is a good one. And I don't think you've ever been asked this one before online. And so this is from Benjamin. Is astral body where the soul leaves? I thought the physical body needed the soul to live.
So you said where the soul leaves, not where it lives.
Well, I'm not sure if one, but I mean, it's the same thing. Is it where the soul lives, or does the soul leave?
You are contained within your soul. So your soul is not contained within you. You are contained within your soul. Your physical body is contained within your soul. Your astral body is contained within your soul. Every lifetime you've ever lived is contained within your soul. All of the experiences of any lifetime you ever lived, whether in the body or out of the body, are contained within your soul. So think of your soul as this multi-dimensional container for all of your experiences. And to just segue into a slightly different question, in case that was what he meant, that when we pass over, we leave the physical body before we leave the astral body. So the astral body lasts a bit longer than the physical body. So if he's asking about leaving, we leave the physical body and we leave the astral body. As I was explaining earlier, you can be projecting all sorts of interesting astral experiences for yourself after death.
So Letitia says, in addition to her question, is it scary as in you feel you can't reconnect with your physical body?
So, I mean, it's possible for somebody to create that experience. I remember, again, years ago, I was in a healing class in England over 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago. And they had us doing some out-of-body experience in that. And there was a girl who couldn't get back into her body. And the teacher had to really help her and assist her to do that. But that's not by any means something that's going to happen, that automatically happens, that always happens. It's very, very rare, I would think, for such a thing to happen. So no, I don't think it's scary at all. And also, you know, I was just add to what we were talking about earlier, I think in part 2, somebody was asking about methods or ways of learning to do lucid dreaming. You can learn to consciously maneuver your astral body. So you can learn to move your astral body out of your physical body, move your consciousness into your astral body, move around in your astral body without ever being asleep. So, I mean, that's something that I do now. And also sometimes when I'm giving healings, I move the person's astral body out of their physical body and we do a healing on both, and then we put them back together again. So it's not scary. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of your reality. It's only scary if you make it scary. Your life is only scary if you make it scary. Hope that makes sense.
So, okay, Brian asked the question. He wanted to know if I'm looking if I missed it. I'll tell you what, here's one for you. Can you comment on old souls and young souls? This is from Daniel.
So I will.
You will?
I will.
That's nice of you.
So here's my comprehension of that. We're eternal beings. So in some sense, you can't have old and new because we're eternal beings. On the other hand, let's take in the context of planet Earth, an old soul on planet Earth versus a young soul on planet Earth might be, an old soul would be someone who's been here associated with this planet and the Earth game since its inception. So they've been part of the creation of this reality. Way, 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 way back. They've had many bodies, many incarnations in the earth plane. They know how it works on this planet. They know how to be in a body on this planet. They have a lot of wisdom because they have a lot of background experience being on this planet. A young soul might be one that has had fewer incarnations, joined the earth game later on, hasn't been here since the beginning, is still at a stage where they are orienting to the physical world. Because we go through stages, you know, we might be, you know, if you're new to the planet, how do I even survive? What's this planet all about? And then the next stage might be, well, how do I belong? How do I fit in? How do I interact with the other beings that are here? And then the next stage might be seeking meaning. What does it all mean? What's my purpose for being in this world? You know, and then the next state might be actualizing yourself and, you know, authentically expressing yourself. And so an older soul is going to be more in that end of the spectrum where they're authentically expressing themselves. And a young soul is going to be more at that end of the spectrum where they're like, how do I even survive here? I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we have a question from Brian that was a little earlier and I missed it. Here we are. Why do I remember very clearly when I dream of someone? I dream more of people who are alive than those who have passed. Are these actually astral projections, visits? Why do I remember these dreams so much clearer than regular dreams?
Well, that's a good question. And I'll answer in a general way and then I'll look at you specifically. It could be actual visits and actual interactions with that other soul, or it could be a projection of consciousness. So you could create a version of that person to interact with within your dream experience, or you could actually meet up with that person and communicate with them. So it could be either or of those things. So let's have a look at this. And I'm seeing with you, it's genuine communications with these other souls, and that you're remembering them because there's purpose to those communications and interactions, and that are pertinent and relevant to your waking life, it looks like to me. So it's like you're wanting to remember it. Yeah, hope that answers your question, Brian.
Okay, we have another one from Wise. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Wise. Is it possible to take it when traveling in your astral body, in brackets called double by some, and kept away from the physical body?
Can you read that again, Corey?
Is it possible to be taken when traveling in your astral body, in open parentheses, called double by some, close, and kept away from the physical body? So basically, is it possible to take it when traveling in your astral body and kept away from your physical body?
Sort of abduct you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I guess I've never heard the term double was.
No, I mean, your astral body is sometimes referred to as your double. And, you know, all the spiritual masters are able to operate their astral body at the same time as their physical body, and even make their astral body look as real as their physical body. So that's how you can have Jesus in the Middle East and in India at the same time teaching, for example. Can you be abducted in your astral body? Well, I think a lot of the alien abduction stories have taken place in people's astral bodies. And so it's possible in the sense that that kind of experience can happen, but yet I would always say it's never outside of your will or control to not be taken, to not be captured, to it's just that people are so into the experience and believe it that they are hooked into that experience. But I mean, if you're in your astral body and somebody's captured you, you're having the illusion of that experience. All you need to do is just intend you're somewhere else and you blink out of that reality into another one.
Okay. By the way, Curious Soul is very apropos for a name for this person here. There, I know, George. George is wonderful. He does think about his questions, I can tell you. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Do the souls ever die? Do they get recycled, burned? Do they move up or down to another level? Can someone learn who is God and the purpose of everything while astral traveling?
Okay,
that's a great question.
I might have to take that in sections. We're all evolving. We're all constantly changing at all levels of our being. And so the soul is evolving and changing. And so the short answer to that, I can't remember exactly how you phrased the question, but I think the answer is yes, because the soul is always evolving and changing. Your soul is evolving as a result of the experiences you're having and all the other experiences that any other aspect of that soul is having. So that was the first part of the question. And the second one was, can somebody experience God while they're outside of the body? Was that what it was, Corey? You're muted.
No. Do they move up or down? Do they get recycled, burned? Do they move to another level? Can someone learn who is God and the purpose of everything while astral traveling?
Okay. So I'll take the second part. Can somebody learn who is God and the purpose of everything while they're astral traveling? Short answer is yes. The long answer is, the answer to that question is different depending on what perspective you're looking at it from. So you might get an answer about God and the purpose of everything that feels right when you're in your out-of-body experience, that when you're in your in-body experience, you know, a different answer might feel more right to you. So there's, in a way, there's, each one of us is a different perspective of God. Each experience we have is a different perspective of God. And not one of us can ever fully comprehend the wholeness of God. Only God can, because only God is all things. We're fragments of God, having different focused experiences. So it's like there's the one big eye of God and then many small eyes, and we're the small eyes. That might be a way that you can do that. And then can the soul move up and down, be burnt and be recycled? So the soul can, I would say it can gain in energy and I think potentially diminish in energy. I tend to think of it as gaining in energy, but I suppose it might be possible to diminish in energy. Let's say you have the experience of being Hitler. What does that do on the level of the soul? You know, but it might, oh, I'm getting the timeout from Corey, timeout. It looks like it's the end of the show. And so, I mean, I would just say all experiences expand whether they appear to be negative or positive, because you gain in information from them.
Yeah. But I've also mentioned to everybody, there's another question. If you want to stick around after the show, you'll be happy to answer it.
Also, next week's show is also going to be on the third chakra and out of body memory. So we are continuing this subject next week. And so come back next week and we will answer more questions about that. Listeners, you've been tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. And tonight's show has been about the third chakra and out-of-body experience. See you next week, next Tuesday, 7 o'clock Pacific, 101.7 FM, Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, and Dr. Leslie Phillips's YouTube channel.
See you then, folks. Okay, Dr. Leslie, you have one more question from Benjamin. Benjamin says, I'm married, so please don't take this the wrong way. I've had this dream before where a woman is attracted to me and she's really attractive. She tries to kiss me, but I tell her I can't.
And the question is, what's the meaning of the dream?
More or less, I would think.
Okay. So let's talk about the woman in the dream. She could be a symbol of your own feminine side. And it could be about you looking to acknowledge, merge, embody, validate your own feminine side. And somehow you're holding your own female energy away from yourself, because it doesn't matter if you're in a male body or a female body, we have all got male and female energy within us. Or maybe it's just part of your commitment to your marriage, that you're challenging yourself in your dreams and, you know, asserting your choice. And dreams can be multidimensional, and there can be multiple meanings for the same dream symbol as well. So it could even be both of those things. All right, well, you've put yourself on mute there, Corey. You were on.
There is one more if you want to answer it from Andorini.
Okay, sure, and then we'll save all the rest for next week.
Yeah. Why do some people readily open and activated their psychic abilities and others not? Is it related to soul's seniority?
Yeah, I mean, we could say, well, a couple of things. Remember, somebody asked a question about old souls and young souls. So maybe there's an old, you know, as an old soul, you've embodied and used those gifts in many past lives. So it's easier for you to plug and play because you've been there and done that, than someone who's new to being in a physical body and new to accessing their higher being through their physical body. But also we have different preferences in terms of what we're interested in and what we want to use physical reality for. So someone like me is really passionate about this stuff and goes, hey, yeah, I'm going to get down there again and I'm going to do all that. But, you know, there might be someone else who's like, well, I'm going to go and start a tech business and, you know, invent something that changes the world. And, you know, maybe their focus is not really about that, and that's okay. It doesn't diminish one person versus another in any way. So it can come down to, yes, what you said, sort of like your soul's lineage and experience, but also preferences and choices as well. And in a way, they're the same thing. Well, thank you everyone for all of your questions. Come back next week because we're going to talk about the third chakra and out of body memory. So we will segue into that. All right, Corey, you're on mute, but I think we're going to say goodbye unless you've got a reason not to. Right, well, thank you everybody on Facebook. We're here every Tuesday, 7 o'clock Pacific time. If you're a new member of the group, welcome. And please join us next week.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.